Okay, so we've all been there, staring at a deadline and kind of wishing for just a little more time.
Yeah.
And today we're diving deep into the art of asking for an extension. We have got some great source material from Fluent Speak Podcast,
Oh, great.
a dialogue that walks us through a real-life extension request scenario. I guess we could think of it as a masterclass in communication.
I love that.
And hopefully by the end of this deep dive, you'll be equipped to handle those tricky deadline conversations like a pro.
I like that.
Yeah.
It's interesting you frame it as an art because there really is a finesse to it. It's
Yeah.
not just about blurting out, I need more time.
Right.
There's strategy involved, a delicate balance between advocating for your needs, but also, maintaining those all-important professional relationships.
Yeah, it's a bit like a negotiation, isn't it? You're trying to reach an agreement
Yeah.
that works for everyone involved. And
Yeah.
in this Fluent Speak dialogue, we see Sam,
Right.
who needs to ask his boss for an extension on a press kit.
Mm.
And by the way, a press kit is basically a package of marketing materials used for media and PR. So think company bios, product photos, that kind of thing.
Okay, got it. Yeah.
And what's interesting is how Sam opens the conversation.
Yeah.
He says, I might need to request an extension on the deadline. Now, did you notice that tentative language?
Yeah, the might need.
Might need.
Yeah, that's a brilliant tactic because it kind of softens the blow and avoids putting the boss immediately on the defensive.
It's like dipping your toe in the water instead of doing a cannonball.
Exactly.
Gives the boss a heads up that there's a potential issue without creating that sense of panic.
Yeah, exactly. It opens the space for dialogue
Right.
and sets a more collaborative tone. Of course, the boss in the dialogue isn't exactly thrilled. They even point out that Sam has had over a month, implying there's been ample time to get the project done.
Right. That's where it's tempting to crumble under pressure and start
Yeah.
making excuses.
Yeah.
Oh, my computer crashed. My dog ate the files.
Yeah.
You know, the classic playbook. But what's impressive about Sam's approach
Yeah.
is that he avoids falling into that trap. He provides clear and specific reasons for the delay.
Right.
He talks about the photographer's availability issues, a team member being out sick, and even having to recreate some lost files. Now, notice how he focuses on factors that were largely outside of his control, but he does so in a way that's factual and professional,
Yeah.
not whiny or blame-shifting.
Right. It's the difference between saying, I couldn't get it done, and saying, here's why it wasn't completed.
Right.
Providing those details shows that you're taking ownership of the situation, even if certain aspects were beyond your immediate influence.
Transparency is key here.
Absolutely.
When you offer specific reasons,
Yeah.
you're demonstrating accountability and showing that you understand the impact of the delay. It's not about shirking responsibility. It's about providing context and giving your boss the information they need to make an informed decision.
Right. And it probably makes them feel more confident in your ability to handle the situation going forward.
Yeah.
Which is crucial when you're asking for more time.
Yeah.
It's about rebuilding trust and assuring your boss that you have a handle on things. Now, Sam also uses a phrase
Okay.
that's worth dissecting further. He says, beyond my control.
Okay.
It's a powerful phrase because it acknowledges that things happen, but it doesn't sound like you're passing the buck entirely.
It's almost like a magic phrase. How do you think using that kind of language helps shape the conversation?
Well, it subtly shifts the focus from individual blame to a broader recognition of external factors.
Okay.
It allows you to acknowledge accountability while also highlighting the realities of project management. Because let's be honest, things rarely go exactly according to plan.
No, they don't. Unexpected challenges pop up all the time. It's how we navigate those challenges that really matter.
And how we communicate those challenges
Yeah.
to people we work with. What's fascinating about this dialogue is that it reveals how even seemingly small word choices can have a significant impact on how our message is received, especially in a professional setting.
Right. It's like you're saying, I did what I could, but these outside forces threw a wrench in the gears. It feels more honest and less like you're trying to make excuses.
Yes.
So we've talked about the initial ask
Right.
and the importance of providing clear reasons rather than vague excuses. What else can we learn from Sam's approach?
Well, let's dive deeper into the specific vocabulary he uses to explain the situation.
Okay.
He uses phrases like ran into and delayed. And I think those words are worth unpacking because they offer subtle but important insights into how to effectively communicate about project setbacks.
Okay, I'm ready to unpack those words. Sometimes it's the subtle nuances that make all difference.
Exactly. What's interesting about the phrase ran into is that it It suggests those unforeseen obstacles, those unexpected roadblocks
Yeah.
that crop up in any project.
Yeah.
It implies that you were making progress, but then hit a snag,
Uh-huh.
something that genuinely impeded your ability to move forward.
It paints a picture, doesn't it? You can almost visualize like running into a wall,
Exactly.
like you're actively trying to advance, but
Yeah.
something is blocking your path.
Right.
It's not that you simply stopped working or chose to procrastinate, but that external forces intervene.
Right. And then there's the word delayed. It shifts the focus from blame to a statement of fact. It's not, I failed to meet the deadline, but rather the project was delayed.
Right.
It acknowledges the situation without assigning fault, which can be helpful when you're dealing with a boss who might be feeling frustrated.
It feels more objective,
Yeah.
less emotionally charged. It keeps the conversation focused on finding a solution rather than dwelling on who messed up.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's a crucial point, When you're asking for an extension, it's not just about explaining the past. It's about setting expectations for the future.
Right.
It's about reassuring your boss that you have a plan to get back on track and deliver the project successfully.
So how can we do that effectively? What are some strategies?
Yeah, what's some strategies?
For rebuilding trust,
Yeah.
demonstrating that we have a handle on the situation, even when things haven't gone according to plan?
Well, the Fluent Speak podcast highlights a couple of phrases
Okay.
that can be useful in these situations. They suggest using phrases like, I've been meaning to,
Okay.
and put this off. Now, these phrases might seem casual,
Yeah.
but they can actually be quite strategic in a professional context.
I can see how I've been meaning to could be helpful. It acknowledges that something has been on your radar,
Right.
but maybe hasn't been your top priority. It's like saying, hey, I haven't forgot about this, but other urgent matters have demanded my attention.
Right. It's a way of expressing intention without making a direct promise.
Right.
It can be a useful tool when you need to buy yourself a little time without committing to a specific action. It also opens the door for further discussion about priorities and workload.
Okay, and then there's put this off, which seems like a more direct way of admitting to procrastination, right?
Well, it could be.
Is there a way to use that phrase without sounding like you're making excuses?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
It can be a way of taking ownership of the delay while also providing context. It's saying, I made a conscious decision to postpone this, and here's why.
Okay.
For example, you might say, I had to put this off because we had a major client issue that needed my immediate attention.
So it's all about context.
Exactly.
If you're using put this off in a casual conversation with a friend, it might just mean you've been a bit lazy.
Yeah.
But in a professional setting, it can be a way of explaining that you had to prioritize other tasks.
Precisely. And that brings us back to the importance of clear communication and being mindful of your audience. The words we choose can have very different meanings depending on the situation
Right.
and the relationship between the speaker and the listener.
It's fascinating how much nuance there is in language. It's like learning a secret code.
It is.
Speaking of codes and hidden meanings, we've all been in those situations where we've had to come up with a creative excuse for why something wasn't done.
Absolutely.
Whether it's blaming a technology malfunction
Yeah.
or a sudden illness, we've all been there, right?
Absolutely. And you know what? Those moments can actually teach us something valuable about communication.
Oh, really?
Even when we're stretching the truth, we're still trying to convey a sense of understanding and empathy.
Okay.
We're trying to connect with the other person and maintain the relationship even in the face of a misstep.
So even those little white lies
Yeah.
can serve a purpose.
They can.
They can help smooth over awkward situations and preserve those important social bonds. But let's bring it back to the core topic of asking for extensions.
Okay.
What are some of the key takeaways you want our listener to walk away with?
Well, I think the biggest lesson here is that communication is paramount. When you need more time, be upfront and honest with the person you're dealing with. Don't try to hide the problem or make vague excuses.
Right.
Instead, provide clear reasons for the delay, emphasizing the factors that were beyond your control and offering a clear plan for moving forward.
And remember, it's not just about the words you say, it's about the tone you use and the overall message you convey.
Yes,
Being respectful, transparent, and proactive
absolutely.
can go a long way in building trust and ensuring a positive outcome.
I completely agree. Asking for an extension isn't about shirking responsibility. It's about managing expectations and maintaining a healthy working relationship. And that's something that will benefit you in all aspects of your life, not just in the workplace.
So we've covered a lot of ground here. From the importance of clear communication to the subtle art of crafting a compelling explanation.
Right.
But before we wrap things up,
Yeah.
I want to leave our listener with a final thought. We've talked about how to ask for an extension,
Mm-hmm.
but what about preventing the need for one in the first place? Oh, that's a good question.
What can we do to be more proactive in managing our time and avoiding those stressful last-minute scrambles for an extension?
Yeah, it's like they say an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. Instead of waiting until the deadline is breathing down our neck,
Yeah.
how can we kind of get ahead of the game and avoid those nail-biting extension requests altogether?
Well, that's where the idea of proactive time management comes in. It's about shifting from a reactive mindset to a more strategic and anticipatory approach.
Okay.
Instead of waiting until you're behind to ask for more time,
Right.
what if you kept the lines of communication open throughout the project?
So regular check-ins with your boss or client, giving them updates on your progress,
Exactly.
and flagging any potential roadblocks early on.
Exactly. And those phrases we talked about earlier, I've
Yeah.
been meaning to or ran into, can actually be really helpful in those casual check-in conversations.
Yeah.
They allow you to subtly signal that things might be a bit off track without sounding overly negative or setting off alarm bells.
It's like planting a seed in their mind that a slight adjustment to the timeline might be needed down the line.
Yeah.
That way, if and when you do need to request an extension, it won't come as a complete shock.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's about building trust and transparency. When you're open and honest about the challenges you're facing, it fosters a more collaborative environment,
Right.
making it easier to navigate those inevitable bumps in the road.
This has been such an insightful deep dive. We've
Yeah.
really gone beyond just the mechanics of asking for an extension and explored the deeper principles of effective communication in a professional setting.
Yeah, and remember, communication is a two-way street.
Right.
It's not just about speaking clearly and persuasively, but it's also about being a good listener. Pay attention to the cues and feedback you're getting from your boss or your client,
Yeah.
and be willing to adjust your approach accordingly.
So as we wrap up this episode, let's leave our listener with a challenge. How can you apply these communication strategies,
Yeah.
those subtle word choices, those proactive conversations, not just to ask for extensions, but to manage expectations and build stronger relationships in all areas of your life?
Because when you master the art of communication, you open doors to greater understanding, collaboration, and ultimately success.
And who knows, you might even find yourself needing fewer extensions along the way. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive, and we'll see you next time for another fascinating exploration of language and communication.